My twin's hand hovers over the fireplace, the confession still ringing in the room, as they let the folded paper drop into the flames. The edges blacken before I can even read, and the smoke curls into a question mark above us. The air goes unbearably quiet, like a breath held too long, and I realize something that was never meant to surface is now turning to ash. Why would they burn the proof before I could touch it? The camera's red light is steady, a metronome for the room's slow exhale, as I set the tripod on the rug that still smells faintly of last night's candle wax. I drape the blanket over the back of the couch, smoothing its creases with deliberate, almost ritualistic motions. It's a gesture that says we still care about appearances, even if the truth is trembling behind them. My twin paces near the mantel, not quite pacing, just tracing the curve of the marble with a fingertip before letting their hand fall away. The fireplace now offers only leaping embers, the roaring gone down to a steady, appreciative hum, and the tuned-in walls take in the hush as if listening for approval. I glance at the framed photograph on the shelf, us, younger, laughing in a field. Then back to the lens, knowing that same history is what braided our trust in the first place. There's a small, almost ceremonial clink as I place the camera's remote beside the stack of notebooks, the ink still drying on the page that will guide what I say next. Outside, the winter sun hits the bare branches with indifferent brightness. And inside, we move through these measured steps like a trimmed choir keeping time with a familiar song. I step into the kitchen, and the air shifts so quickly I hear the scrape of the countermat. Noor freezes mid-reach for the tea kettle, her hand hovering over the handle like it might burn her. Rowan is at the back of the room, leaning against the pantry door, eyes tracking my every step but refusing to meet mine. They both look small and adrift in a house that used to hold all of us without a map. I set the small leather folder on the table, the one I pulled from the attic and wiped clean in the car. No pages are open yet. I just slide it in front of them. Noor pins me with that sharp, half-ready stare and says, "You brought it back. You said you wouldn't drag." "I'm not dragging anything, Noor." My voice comes out too loud. I'm asking why we stopped sharing rooms, meals, and anything that resembled trust. I press a palm flat on the folder. We've been divided for years because of that secret. I can't pretend the silence is harmless anymore. Not to you, not to me. I don't name it, can't. But the words hang heavy. A noose I pull taut around the room. Rowan pushes off the pantry and crosses to the far counter, sets his chin a little higher than usual. "You want to talk? We'll talk. Just don't expect me to smile through it." The emotional peak hits when Noor walks past the folder, reaches for my wrist, then stops halfway. Her thumb presses against my pulse, but she pulls away without touching my skin. The moment is loud, the scrape of the chair as she sits, the inhale before Rowan speaks again. He moves to stand beside her, both of them now nearly filling the narrow space between sink and fridge. "We start with midnight," Rowan says. No whispers, no running. You pick a place. "The living room couch," I say. "We used to stack blankets there for movie nights. We can start there. I'll bring the coffee." I let the folder stay closed. Tonight, I'm not asking for truth, just attendance. Noor nods. Rowan's shoulders relax. When Noor turns the kettle on, the click of the switch feels like a small victory. The house still holds the same creaks, but now there's a plan that brings us forward. 1 hour, 1 couch, 1 shared space. The folder will stay closed for tonight, but the silence has already been broken. I slide the empty wine glass across the coffee table, the clink louder than the silence had any right to be. Rowan's eyes track the movement and flick to the illegal stack of board games Nora left upright against the wall. I reach into the little ruin of cushions between them and come up with something brittle. A cardboard box stitched shut with fading tape, labeled in Nora's looping hand. My fingers shake as I tear it open. Inside, 2 plastic microphones from the Festival of Stars play set. The blue one still smells faintly of burnt rubber. Rowan's jaw tightens. "You kept those," he says, voice thin. "I kept them because I wanted to hear us perform," I say. I hold both microphones out. "But I remember the second rehearsal when Mom—" I stop, hand hovering between us. I can't name who set the parts, but the memory burns whether I speak it or not. The blue microphone slides toward Rowan. He shoves it back toward me with a movement that is almost, but not quite, a rejection. Nora leans forward, elbows on her knees. "You were always the narrator," she murmurs, as if trying it on for size. "I wasn't the narrator," Rowan spits. "I was supposed to be you. I watched you rehearse lines meant for me, and I couldn't say it. You were the one who got to have the solos we practiced together." Another breath. "You looked at me like I'd forgotten my words." I slam my palm on the coffee table. The glass rolls and stops against my wrist. "But I was the one who wasn't supposed to look at you," I say. "You were supposed to be my echo, our voices lining up. Instead, every time I opened my mouth, I was stepping into someone else's script." Rowan shoves away from the couch and stands, looming in the dim lamplight. "Is that why you stopped talking to me after that show?" "I stopped looking at you because I couldn't tell if you were watching me or if you were already being told who you were," I answer, breathing hard. "We were twins. The rest of it, the roles, the applause, they were a deception placed between us. I can feel the crack." Rowan paces once, his sneakers whispering on the rug. Nora reaches out and places her hand on his shoulder. It doesn't push him back. He looks down at her hand, then at me. "You think I didn't feel it too?" He drops onto the armchair, the leather sighs under him. "But I kept pretending. Maybe because I was scared whoever made the choice would know if I admitted it." "I'm tired of pretending," I say, and my voice doesn't waver from the edge of the coffee table. I hold the microphones up again, the plastic glowing green under the lamp. The roles were never ours. Even if I don't know who switched them, I know now that the way we had to speak to each other was by design, and it broke the bridge. Nora draws in a breath, then lets it out slowly. "So we start here," she says low, "with what we both remember. Not the who, but the how." Rowan finally meets my eyes. "Then don't let it be painless anymore," he says, voice cracked but steady. "Tell me the lines. Tell me what you heard. I'll tell you what I heard when I watched you." I nod and slide down beside him, offering him one microphone. He takes it. The plastic trembles between us like a held breath. We begin matching the cadence of a childhood duet, not because the parts were assigned to us this time, but because we choose to hear each other without instructions. The room isn't suddenly whole, but the air shifts. Misaligned roles acknowledged, the fracture visible. For a moment, we all simply match the rhythm and feel the tiny payoff. Rowan's grip loosens around the microphone, Nora's shoulders unclench, and I find my voice in the space between a memory and the truth it reveals. I press the red button on the old cassette recorder until the whirring stops, then set the microphone between us like a mediator. Rowan leans forward, fingers digging into the arm of the couch. Nora curls her legs under her, eyes on the recorder. I take a breath that shivers through my ribs and lean toward the mic. The night the fire started, I did not run to the door like you think. I stepped into Rowan's room, changed into his jacket, and told everyone I would keep vigil because you were sick. I made it look like I was the brave one who would stay when our father needed help. That was my choice to hide him from the flames. The words slam into the room, and Rowan's knuckles burst white on the armrest. He jerks upright, the motion spilling a glass of water onto the carpet. You lied to me while I was burning in the backyard. He spits, voice so tight it slices. You let me take the blame for the scar on my arm. Nora reaches out and grabs his wrist before he can pull away, thumb rubbing circles into his pulse. I do not look away. The microphone pulls my posture straight. I thought if I could be the one everyone demanded, the injuries would take one body instead of two. I say, each word a step. It kept our father from learning how far he'd pushed you, Rowan. But it also let me disappear under everyone's expectations. I stopped saying I when it was my breath that was stilled. Rowan swallows hard, jaw trembling. The air tightens, but Nora's grip shifts and she brings her palm to the recorder, pressing lightly. He stares at me, then down at his hands, that still tremble with the echo of that heat. You took away what was mine. He says, softer now, as if he's feeling the weight and doesn't want it to break. And you kept it from me even when I was knocking on that door. You kept me from fighting back. The silence that follows is not empty. It rattles across the walls like aftershocks. I lean back, finally letting my shoulders fall. I never wanted to steal your fight, I mutter. I thought I could keep you safe by wearing you. But I see how I let you believe you were the only one with scars. That was betrayal, and I own it. Nora shifts, finally letting her fingers slide from Rowan's wrist to his forearm, grounding both of them. We can hear it now, she says, voice low but steady. We can stop pretending the roles were fixed. Rowan lets out a breath that trembles into a laugh, half anger, half release. He reaches across the recorder, his hand hovering over mine for a moment, then resting there. The microphone catches the scrape of plastic as I pull it closer toward us, the tape whir humming softly back to life. Let's use this, I whisper, and Rowan nods, eyes wet but fierce. Tell me what you remembered seeing through that door, Rowan. Tell me what you needed. The tension loosens like a knot unraveling, just enough for something new to take shape. A partnership forged from truth. Nora presses her forehead against mine before we all lean back. The recording now a shared witness, the room heavy with smoke that never returned. Rowan's hand squeezes mine, not letting go. The scarred fingers finally parting from the past to hold something more solid. Nora propped the phone against the ashtray, her thumb swiping past the question marks in the family chat until she found the live thread from Detective Ames. He's not waiting for another alibi, she said, voice low but steady. The woman on Maple Street took a statement an hour ago. She remembered Rowan being there by the creek, not at home. Ames wants Rowan to come in tonight, not as a walk-through, but as a witness. She tapped the screen. Aunt Jess said she can't keep covering for the missing time. She's already pulled her story from Emily. They know both of us could have answered for that hour. So now neither of us is going to get a pass. The knock cracks through the quiet like a gunshot. Rowan freezes mid-breath. Nora straightens, eyes flicking to the hallway. The door opens, Detective Ames stepping inside with a notebook, his eyes ricocheting between the three of us. Dull ceiling light catches on his badge. He doesn't smile. I'm here for Rowan, Ames says. We need to talk about the creek. His voice glides over the room, landing bluntly on the worn coffee table stacked with childhood microphones. Rowan's hand curls around the arm of the sofa. His jaw tightens. Before anything else, I say, standing even though my knees want to settle back down. I'm giving you the truth as I promised. I hold up a weathered cable-wrapped recorder, little plastic buttons worn smooth from years of sibling performances. I'm the one who was with the fire night. I stepped into Rowan's place. I built the alibi. I'm here to lay everything on the table so he doesn't keep carrying the weight of a lie he didn't create. The room hums when I speak, my breath loud in my own ears. Nora slides a hand to my shoulder, pressure gentle, preventing me from moving toward Rowan. Rowan jerks forward. You think you can clean this with words? He spits. You're dragging me into more than the truth. You're dragging... Let me finish, Nora says, voice low but steady, stepping between us. Her palm rests on Rowan's sternum, a barrier. He's not erasing anything. He's finally telling us all the same version of what happened. Ames kneels, setting down his own recorder. Talk. I explain how I heard the night as a child, how I watched Rowan memorize every line, how I swapped his uniform with mine, how I slipped into the house and camped in the parlor, feeding the story to Aunt Jess and to myself. I don't pause to soften anything. I describe Rowan being the twin burned into every family memory, while I folded myself into that role like paper into origami, hoping no one would unfold the lie. Rowan stands, fists clenched so tight, his knuckles flare white. You kept pretending you were me, he hisses. You let everyone believe I was the hero. I let everyone believe he was the hero, Nora snaps, turning toward me then back to Ames. He let him carry it. That ends tonight. Ames scribbles in his notebook, pen scratching like a second heartbeat. So, you were the one at the scene? He asks me. Every step, I say, pulse tapping the inside of my throat. I told Aunt Jess, I told the school, I told the family. Rowan only pulled himself back into the quiet because I told him to. Rowan's breath leaves him in a long exhale. The tension in his shoulders drops fractionally, but doesn't break. So now what? He snarls. You're going to watch them come after me for what you did? No, Ames says, voice softer than before. Not for what he did, for knowing about it and hiding it. But not you, Rowan. Not for a lie you didn't invent. Nora turns to me with a look that's half weariness, half relief. You said it wouldn't be pretty, she murmurs. No, I answer. But it's true. Rowan slumps into the couch. The detective rises, slipping the recorder into his pocket, and heads for the door. Stay, Nora tells Rowan, then to Ames. If you need anything else, call. Her tone is sharp, but I watch her exhale when Ames gives a curt nod and leaves. The door clicks shut. Silence swells around us. Rowan stares at the floor. I drop onto the rug in front of him, palms flat, and for the first time in weeks, I don't try to hide my face. Not everything is done, Rowan says, words scraping against the rug fibers. No, I agree, but I'm done hiding. Nora kneels beside me, resting her forehead on mine. The microphones hum softly with the echoes of our childhood voices, now finally aligned with the truth. I slide my phone back into my pocket the instant the last of Aunt Jess's empty stare drifts past the doorway. The living room is too small for the silence that follows. Rowan's eyes are still on me, chest rising and falling as if he could outbreathe the rage. Nora still sits on the rug, legs tucked under, hands pressed together so tight the wedding band blurs. I'm calling them now, I say aloud, because the words need to echo off the walls. Because the only way forward is to make sure everyone can hear me plan it. Not later, not once things cool. I'm laying every piece out in front of the guardians, legal reports, our names, the night in the fire, the alibi. I'm drafting it while I wait. I walk past Rowan and place the stack of evidence. Notes, the charred notebook, the recorder log, on the coffee table. Nora leans forward, pushing a crumpled napkin across to me. The pen she slides over clacks like a metronome. Rowan grunts, sharp enough to make the lamp wobble, but he doesn't reach for me. I thumb the keypad while Rowan's gaze follows every movement. "You think this will absolve you?" He spits. "You think they hear you and just—" He slams his fist into the couch, leaving a dent. Dust spools into the air. "You betrayed me. You replaced me." I don't flinch. "I told you that already," I murmur, letting the words settle in the middle of the room. My hand never leaves the phone. Now the rest of the family, the guardian board, Detective Ames. They all deserve to know why I stepped into your shadow. I'm ending the silence so the next call you hear isn't a whisper of blame. Rowan jerks, voice going raw. "You're dragging them into this." "They're already in it," I say, dialing Aunt Serena, the appointed guardian, into the conference line. "They've been in it since the fire. This is just me keeping my promise to them and to you." Nora rises, letting her palm rest on Rowan's shoulder, not to push, but to steady. He breathes hard, waiting for the moment I hit send. The call connects on the third ring. "Serena?" The word is careful, precise. I lay out the facts, what Nora heard, what I did, how the lie was built, and how long I let it stand. Each sentence is deliberate. I don't soft-step around Rowan. I say the word betrayal before the line can interrupt me. Rowan's jaw tightens until his teeth shine. I tell Serena I'm handing Detective Ames a written statement tonight, that I'll be in the precinct with the recorder and the notebooks first thing in the morning. As I speak, Rowan's shoulders lower an inch, like the taut cord finally loosens. He doesn't say thank you. He doesn't curse me either. Instead, the moment the call ends, he grabs the recorder, flips it on, and leans toward it. His fingers tremble, but the voice that crackles out is steady. "Let them hear this. Let them hear it from me too." He speaks about the fire, naming the moment when I stepped in front of him. The recorder hums as he finally takes the stage he thinks is rightfully his. I stay still beside him, the guilt heavy in my ribs. But at least I know now the truth is laying itself across the table where everyone can see it. The recorder breathes a last hiss as Rowan lifts his hand, the tape spool still turning from the tremor of his own words. He had spoken the night of the fire in cadences that belonged to him alone, a bare recital of flames and choices, and the room hums with the echo. Nora leans back against the sofa, her fingers curling into the worn armrest, eyes on the recorder as if it were a witness that could not be denied. Ames keeps his gaze lowered, the pen resting beside a stack of statements that will travel next to Serena's steadied hands. Serena, standing by the doorway, accepts the envelope of confessions without a glance at anyone else. The paper feels thick with the burning of the past, and she does not offer comfort, only the slow nod that says she knows what it will compel of them. The narrator retreats to the mantel, hands empty but for the ash of the last confession, and lets silence settle like dust over the room. No one reaches out, for there is nothing to mend. The truth has been cast into the hallway of their lives, and it cannot be gathered back. The door remains ajar, a draft whispering in from the creek that once held an alibi. Soundless and irreversible, the family sits with its own shadows.